My name is Sean Allen, originally from New Jersey. Any East Coast fans in the house? One? I'm the founder of Sean's Resume Shop in Downey, California, certified professional resume writer and career coach. Happy to be here to talk to you about a challenge that most of you guys are facing, which is the addiction to gambling. Just kidding. We're here to talk about 3 steps to not crap out on your career search. So I'll be short. What we're going to talk about today is, for the next 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to highlight a couple of recommendations that I have so that you guys do not have an unlucky job search. Then I'm going to go into a little bit more details as far as how to maneuver with these 3 steps, a little bit more into detail. So, just to provide some context, in the gambling world there's a game called craps. We'll talk about it a little later on. It has 2 dice, I'm sure you guys have seen it. And in short, if you roll a 2, a 3, or a 12, that's called craps, and you typically lose. So what we don't want you to do is we don't want you to roll a 2, a 3, or a 12 while you're career searching. So I have 3 steps for you today to write down. I don't have handouts, so I'm going to be brief with what I'm trying to say. The first step on to how to not crap out on your career search is to not put all your eggs in one basket. Not put all your eggs in one basket. So what does that mean? So when you're applying, how many of you apply online? By raising hands. Okay, has any of you mailed in a resume for an application over the past year? 1, maybe 2, okay. So what does that mean? So if we're applying online, we typically have lots of eggs in the online application market, right? But are we using multiple sites? Are we using different avenues to get an opportunity? So we'll talk a little bit more about those details. Just one note here. A lot of online applications are screened by ATS, which is Applicant Tracking Systems or scanners. What that means is it's a scanner that the employer hires, a company that scans resumes, and they filter through your resume looking for certain keywords. If you don't have those keywords on your resume, guess what happens? That's right, 50% of resumes that are applied online don't even hit human eyes because they're filtered out, screened out by these ATS systems. Okay, so keep that in mind, 50%. So how do you structure your documents for the ATS systems? We'll talk a little bit about that later. Second step. The first step was don't put all your eggs in one basket when you're applying. The second step is develop your online professional branding. Okay? Develop your online professional branding. What does that mean? We all know about LinkedIn. We're going to hear a little bit later about LinkedIn. We know about Facebook. We know about some of the other social profiles that we use. But there's some other recommendations I'll go a little bit more into detail about simply Googling yourself. If you have a very, very unique name, that can work for you, that can work against you. If you have a unique name and you type your name into Google, whatever pops up is probably you, which could be a good or a bad thing, right? So we're going to talk about that. So developing your online professional branding. Third step, this is an important one, prompt follow-up. Prompt follow-up. So what does that mean? So you have an interview. Let's say you got a successful interview lined up. You had the interview, you asked your questions, you walk away. 5 weeks later, no call, no email, not even a person at the door knocking. Did you do prompt follow-up? Maybe not. Maybe they already selected someone. Maybe the hiring manager had a gallbladder infection. That's a true story, that happened to me. But luckily I followed up after 2.5 weeks, and I found out, and the HR recruiting manager contacted me, and I was able to slide right into the next process of the interview. So those are the 3 keys we're going to focus on today, but I do want to start with something fun. I've got a prop here today, something dear to my heart. Anybody here been to Vegas? Yeah. Okay, we talked about Vegas before. Okay, this is dice. They're connected together. They're usually separate, right? So as I mentioned, in the Vegas world, a 2, a 3, and a 12 is a craps. That means you're out, you lose. What's the percentage? I'm a math guy, I like numbers. There's 36 ways to roll something on this dice. To get a 12, you have to get a 6 and a 6. To get a 2, you have to get a 1 and a 1. To get a 3, you have to get a 1 and a 2, or a 2 and a 1. What that means is you have a 1 out of 36 chance of getting a 12, 1 out of 36 chance of getting a 2, and you have a 2 out of 36 chance of getting a 3. It's very similar in the career searching world. Did you know that Glassdoor, LinkedIn, and several other websites say that you have less than a 5% chance of getting an interview just by applying online? 5%. So I'm not saying get your life savings and throw it on 2, 12, and 3, because you have 11% chance of actually winning with those numbers compared to 5% applying online. But 5% is not a lot. You apply to 100 positions, you might hear back from 4 or 5, right? So what can we do about that? So I mentioned the 3 strategies. Remember, 3 steps today. First one I talked about not putting all your eggs in one basket. Okay, so we roll the dice. We talked about online applications. Are you using LinkedIn? Have you heard about LinkedIn Premium? Anybody? Yeah. Right? Okay, LinkedIn Premium, I don't know how they do this and how it's legal, but LinkedIn Premium, if you set up an account on LinkedIn Premium and you paid a $29 a month, when you apply to positions, a lot of times your application is ranked a little bit higher than those others who don't have that account. So how do they do that? Well, they make sure that your profile is not just basic or intermediate. They make sure that they make recommendations so that your profile is more developed and you have an intermediate, advanced, or all-star, the top of the level profile. So your application actually looks stronger just by utilizing the recommendation that they have through LinkedIn Premium. I don't work for LinkedIn, so I don't get any kickback from that. I have to say that, because it's going to be online, right? So that's one recommendation. If you haven't looked into LinkedIn Premium, roll the dice, give it a shot. That's one avenue, outside of just applying on Glassdoor or other online portals. Secondly, word of mouth is key. How many of you have heard the saying, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, right? I like to take it a step further. It's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. Because you can know a lot of people, but if you don't reach out to them, that's not going to really help you, right? So how many of you are utilizing the people you know? How many of you are saying, hey, look, I want to sit down and have a lunch and learn with you, or a one-on-one meeting, or a lunch meeting, or let's go out for coffee. Sit down with them, introduce yourself to them. If you know them, let them know, hey, this is my career, this is what I'm interested in. You know, do you know anyone who may have opportunities, right? Sounds kind of fun, a little bit easier than just applying online at nighttime and waiting to hear back from something. So if you can set up these one-on-one meetings, that has a higher chance of you getting some feedback and getting your resume or application in front of the decision maker rather than just online. So that's another way to not put all your eggs in one basket. And then lastly, there's also utilizing some other websites. Some people are in their careers where they have headhunters actually contact them. So there's companies that are hired to attract and hire talent, and they come find you online a lot of times. And so maneuvering through, if someone does call you and they're a headhunter and they say, hey, we have an opportunity for you, are you interested? If you're the type of person that doesn't answer random phone calls, you might be missing phone calls from headhunters. They're looking for you. They call you and you hang up on them or send them an automatic text message. So try to open up your mind and look at different ways to apply than just the traditional route. And that's some of the things that I work with my clients on, is coaching them through maneuvering the different strategies. Don't just sit and apply to 50, 60 online positions. You might hear back, but utilize some of the other sources that's out there as well. So, the second one we talked about, remember what we talked about? Your online branding, professional image. So we talked about Googling your name and seeing what pops up. But as we know, life happens, right? You roll the dice, life happens. We start businesses, and sometimes businesses don't work out. We have relationships, and sometimes relationships don't work out. Well, the issue with that is there's public records online as well. And if you start a business in, let's say, 1998, created a Yelp page, let's say it tanked, it didn't work out, and you have negative reviews on your business, and that was 5 years ago. What if a potential employer is looking at you, and they see this business that you used to own, it's tied to you, and there's nothing but click on the website, this page cannot be displayed. Or you go on the Yelp page, it hasn't been updated at all, it has negative reviews, right? Does that work for you or against you? It works against you, right? So think about what is your online presence outside of just social media. Think about if someone Googles your name, what pops up? Any public records, any bankruptcies, right? Any records that might be online. And try to tackle that, just like your credit score, right? Try to tackle that up front before you actually need it, because when an employer is looking at you and you've already applied, if they're a smaller company and they don't have these scanning technology companies, they're going to go to traditional route. They're just going to look you up. You can get your resume and type you in. I've sat with recruiters who've actually done that. So that's the second recommendation I have, is boosting your professional branding or your online branding. And then lastly, we talked about prompt follow-up. So, who here who has had an interview over the past 6 months? Raise your hands. You've had an interview in the past 6 months, you've had an interview, okay? After that interview, did you send a thank you email, or you sent a thank you email?
Yes.
Did you send a thank you email? No? It's all right. Hey, we don't judge you. We don't judge you. How about a thank you letter, thank you card? Okay. So candidates are getting competitive now. They're getting really competitive. A lot of candidates are interviewing on a panel interview, right? They roll the dice, they get to interview, they're sitting with a panel of 2 or 3 interviewers, and they're interviewing them. And the interview goes well, right? And guess what they do? They send a follow-up thank you. But not just an email. Some of them are actually sending thank you cards. Traditional, very traditional. Now, if you're working for a tech company, or trying to work for a tech company, maybe that's not the route to go. But maybe if you're working with a more corporate or Fortune 500 or a traditional firm or even a smaller firm, sending a handwritten thank you card within 1 to 2 days after your interview can really, really work wonders. And there's a lot of people doing it. Just don't be the one that's not doing it, because then now you're singling yourself out, right? So prompt follow-up. Now, what happens if you get the interview, and you do the interview, and you don't hear anything back? What's the perfect time? Is it a couple of days to follow up? Is it 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? 5 years? I heard someone did that one time.
1 hour.
Yeah, they interviewed.
She said 1 hour.
1 hour. They interviewed, and this was in 2006, and they didn't get the job, and they didn't hear anything. And then they wanted to apply back to that company. So in 2011, they just responded to whoever they emailed with, hey, just following up, we interviewed a couple years ago. They didn't get the job. But I just bring that up because there's no definitive answer. The answer is really it depends. So I like to use, the 1 to 2 week rule, but you got to be a little bit more forward thinking. There's always that time in an interview where they say, do you have any questions for us? That usually happens. That's a great time to pose a question. Well, after you throw them with an intelligent question about their company and their strategic plan, or how they're doing in the stock market, or how they feel about certain things going on in the industry, after you do those really intelligent questions, you can ask them a simple question. Hey, what's the next step in the hiring process? Or, when are you trying to fill this position? Or when should I hear some follow-up back? Or a little bit more aggressive, can I follow up with you within the next 1 to 2 weeks? That way, you put the question out there and you let them tell you the feedback, and then now you have a gauge on should I wait 1 week or 2, right? So that's prompt follow-up. Same thing with offer letters. Maybe you do get the offer letter. A lot of times you might get pressured. It feels that way. I know I felt that way when I got my offer in 2011. I thought I would have 7 days, but my offer said 48 hours, right? Well, they wanted 48 hours for a response. They didn't necessarily want me to accept it or deny it within 48 hours. So you definitely, when you get that offer letter, you want to review it and look it over, because this is your life you're talking about, benefits. This sets the standard of living, right? So same thing with offer letters. You want to be prompt. You want to acknowledge that you received it, of course, because if you don't, the clock is already starting to tick down, and sometimes they want to see a response. So you get that offer letter, you want to be prompt, and you want to be able to engage the person who sent you the offer letter. Negotiate or engage or ask questions. At least establish a connection with them. So those are 3 points that I wanted to cover. So once again, first one. You guys remember what the first one was? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Okay? And we'll look at different avenues of applying. You utilize word of mouth. Utilize people in your network. Utilize Google, Glassdoor, LinkedIn Premium. Actually go on the website itself for the company. Set up a profile and apply directly to the company. And talk to people, sit down. Have lunch on lunch, one-on-one meetings with anyone that you know. You never know who they may be able to connect you with at a company. Maybe they can connect you with the decision maker, or the hiring manager, or the recruiter, okay? Second was your online branding, right? Your online branding, and we talked about that, right? So think outside of just social media. Think outside of your security settings. Just do a simple thing, Google yourself. Look at what is online about you, because that may be used for you or against you. And then the last one we talked about was,
Follow-up.
that's right, follow-up, prompt follow-up. See, that's good. Spoken from the public speaker in the back, thank you. So prompt follow-up in every aspect of the career searching strategy, from everything from interviewing, from receiving the offer, from even after receiving, discussing, and accepting the offer, prompt follow-up. So those are 3 steps on how to not crap out of your career searching strategy. I wanted to do that analogy just because, luck was kind of the theme that I wanted to go for. Even though your job searching strategy is not really based on luck, there's a skill, there's an art and science to it. But you want to focus on, if you start with those 3 things,